Hi, welcome to RStudio and R video tutorial part 1. This is Dr. N. Mao, Professor of Information Systems. By now, you have completed your introduction to R tutorial on Data Camp. It's time to apply this knowledge. We'll be following along with a document located on your Moodle called RStudio R, and also we'll be downloading a file called pool.csv. So go ahead and download that file so you'll have that ready to go. If you don't have the handout RStudio R, please go ahead make a printout of this. Here are the list of activities we'll be completing. We learn how to start a new project in RStudio, how to import data, load very useful packages, export data, select columns, select rows, use criteria, sort data, and also look at the views of different data frames and the structure of the data frames. At the end, we'll go over some key statistical analysis we can complete. Before we get into RStudio, let's look at the different screen components. There are 4 major panes within RStudio. Top left, you have the source code script editor. You can see actually it talks about source. This is where you can write scripts that can be reused. Top right is where my R console is, but this can be modified. The default actually R console is on the bottom left, so I will show you how to modify that. Bottom left, I have my workspace as well as history, the different tabs. Bottom right is where the files and graphs will be presented. Now let's go to RStudio to see how we can actually start a new project. Upon entry, you will notice you have 4 major panes. If for some reason you're missing one of them, you can always go to View, Panes, and Show All Panes. I'm using Mac right now. Your Windows locations for different menu options might be slightly different. And also, I talked about earlier, for my console, I like to have it on my right side, and that's how you can actually modify it. Okay. So let's start the project. Couple of ways to do it. Right here, under the icon, you'll have create a project. And I won't save my current space, so I'm going to start a new directory, new project, and browse to the location where you want it to be first. And that's where I want my project to be. And I'll create a new directory name called CIS 378 and create project. And now you can see my console is populated with the information on our So now you can look at, I have my R information listed here. And it's an open source software, which makes it really an advantage of using R. That means a lot of the packages, a lot of functions are constantly being developed and refined. More efficient ways are coming out every day. So now we're ready to learn how to import data in R. Couple of locations to import data. One is on the file, import data set. You can see we have text-based file. For the CSV file we downloaded earlier, the pool.csv file, we'll be using this RStudio to be able to import it. You can also import Excel, SPSS, SAS, and Stata data. Another location to import is right here in your environment. So you can also go from here. So let's do it from this particular location. You will browse the location where your data is, and I have my pool data under the download. Once you open, you can see data is populated. You can preview the first 50 records. And also what's interesting here is the code, how to load up data, import data in R is presented here. So I'm actually going to copy this to show you. Control C to copy. You can just go ahead import if you want to. I'm actually going to cancel it and paste the code in my R console. So now I can return to run it. And you can see a couple of things happen here. Our data is presented under the script area, and also under the environment, the pool data is located. And it tells us there are 17 observations and 7 variables. So you can scroll to the right to be able to see the 7 different variables. Next, let's look at how do we load packages within RStudio. So the packages are really one of the most elegant ways of doing things in R. So instead of you having to write so many lines of code, they're actually packaged, written already, pre-written for you. So you are really taking advantage of reusability of code in this environment. 2 steps to install packages. First, you need to install, and then after you install them, you load them. We're installing 3 key packages: tidyr, dplyr, and tidyverse. And once we install packages, we use the command library to load them. So let's go to RStudio to do that. So install packages. You can tab to pick up the suggested term. And the first one we'll have is tidyr. If you're installing this for the first time, you might take a little bit time to install everything. And I pre-installed, so it's rather quick for me. So next one I'm going to install is dplyr. And the third one is tidyverse. After I've completed installation, let's load them up using library, tidyr, library, dplyr, and the last one will be tidyverse. So by now everything is completed. Those 3 packages have been installed and loaded. So next, we're going to be looking at how to export data from RStudio. So we just grab something from outside RStudio. Now let's return it back out. So here you can see the code I will be writing. We're going to define a new data frame called pool1, and that's going to be the identical data from pool. And we're going to be writing that data using the code called write.csv. And we're going to be writing pool1 here and the path of the data will be going to. So depending what you're using, in Windows, you're likely to see something like this. In Mac, it's slightly different. So let's go ahead and type that in. First thing we will develop is the new data frame. So pool1 will be assigned the value from pool. And you can see we have a replication of pool into pool 1. Okay, 17 observations, 7 variables. And next, we're going to be writing that data. To actually make it a little bit easier, I will pull the code by going under the History tab. And you double click, it will pull that particular line of code into your console area. The only thing I really want is that file path. So I will do Control C, Command C, or Control C, depending what you use. And I'll actually delete this line. And I'll go write.csv and be writing pool 1 to Control V, and I will change that name to pool 1. Okay, and voila. Now you can't really see anything in this, but if I go to my Finder area, you can see my pool 1 has been just written to my download directory. Okay, so that's how you export data from RStudio. So let's look at our next activity is how do we select columns. You can select column a couple of ways. The native R command is using your data frame, using the square bracket to define the columns signified by C, and use the index, first column, second column, fifth column, that's indicated here. Or from the tidyverse package, you can use the select statements for columns. You define data frame name and followed by the actual column names. So let's go to our RStudio to do that. So let's try getting the 3 columns. Column 1, which is name, column 2, address, column 5 is size. So let's try that. So we want to have pool, and using a square bracket, C, we want 1, 2, and 5. So 3 columns. And you can see we have the name, address, and size, which is the 5th column. We can also try using the tidyverse select statement to select from pool, and we can actually indicate the actual names of the columns. So it will be name, address, and size. You can see we'll produce identical results using the select statement. So that's how you can select different columns. How about rows? The rows are very simple as well. You define the name of the data frame and indicate which records you want. By leaving blank after comma means you want all the columns for that particular record to be shown. So let's take a look how we can do that. So first we define the data frame, and we want to get, let's say, the first 5 records, 1 through 5, and close the bracket. So now we look at here, comparing to our data here, you have the first 5 rows of data, Acadia all the way to Chermside pool. Okay, so that's how you can get specific rows of data. But you can also say, I just want the first 5 rows and just the names. So you can actually restrict to a certain number of rows. one cool trick in RStudio is that if you use your up arrow, you can pull out the previous statements, or you can go up more or come back down. Okay, so instead of leaving that blank after row 1 through 5, I will put in, say I want just the names. Okay, and now you can see the result has been produced with just the names. So that's how you can select multiple rows. And also we can select rows by certain type of criteria. This is very, very useful. Let's say you want to select certain subset of data and you want to either restrict it by numeric values or restrict by certain text values. We can do that very easily using the function called subset. Okay, so let's take a look at how we can do that. So looking at our data, let's say that we want to just create a subset of the pools that's located in the state of Louisiana. Right now you can see we have Texas, Alabama, and Louisiana. So let's create a data frame called pool LA and use the subset function to grab from our pool data. And let's say we want just the state of Louisiana. So to have an identical match, we use a double equal sign to signify that in R. And then we specify in double quotation the exact text. So state will be matched to Louisiana. Okay, so let's run that. You can see in the environment area, the pool LA has been selected, only 7 observations, and we can actually go ahead pool LA and see those 7 observations here. Okay, you look under state, all of them are Louisiana locations. What if you want to do certain type of numeric restriction or criteria? Let's say we want to look at only the Louisiana pools, but only want the ones that's small. Let's say we use 3,000, let's say that's square feet, that's a pretty large pool, 3,000 or less, actually less than 3,000 is a small pool. So let's create another pool LA, we can call it small, okay? And the value of that will be assigned from the subset of pool coming from pool LA, coming from restricting the size to less than 3,000. Okay, so that's our restriction. So without even running it, we can actually eyeball it. Less than 3,000, we should get just 3 records, and all of them will be 500 square feet in size. So let's run it, and you can see pool LA small is 3 observations. So if we run this, we can see those 3 records with the size being 500 only. Okay, so that's how you can do this type of criteria. You can also do criteria that's giving you, maybe in this particular data set, we want to filter out only the records that's either located in Texas or Louisiana. So in that case, we need to use an OR type of statement. So how do we do that? So let's try defining a new data frame that's Louisiana and Texas. Let's say that's our data frame. And it's going to be coming from the subset from our pool data and only want the state. Make sure it's correctly spelled. It's case sensitive, so S has to be capitalized in state. And we want two of them. One is Louisiana. And to have an OR, you use the vertical bar, which is located right below your delete key, top right of your keyboard, and then we state the other criteria, which state equals to Texas. Okay, so if we look at pool LA, Texas, and look under the state, you will see Texas, Louisiana, and that's exactly what we wanted. Okay, so that's how you can select certain rows of data using criteria. So next, let's look at how we can sort data. Here is two-step approach. And first we need to define which particular column we'll be using to sort our data. And we use the function called order. So we order it by post age. So the dollar sign is actually indicating it's a column followed by the column name. And then we're going to say it's going to be a descending order, which is decreasing equals to true. And we create an index using this order and put that into a data frame called IDX or index. And then we reorder your data frame using that index. So let's see how it's operationalized. So first step we're going to do is create a data frame called IDX. And using the keyword called order, we're going to be ordering, let's say we want to order maybe the Louisiana pool. Okay, so I can see the Louisiana pool, the small pools up here. Okay, so let's order that particular one. In fact, that's already in order. Maybe let's choose the LA, Texas one then. So let's sort the LA, Texas one by age. Okay, so let's define order, and this will be coming from pool LA, Texas, and dollar sign to indicate we want the age column, and decreasing equals to true. Okay, so we're creating the index. So without even running this, we can see the index will basically defining row 3 will be row 3 will be the first index order. So let's go ahead and run that and see it. So the index value is presented at the bottom of the environment here. And let's go ahead and put the index up and see what it looks like. So you can see the order is shown here. The top one, descending order is record 3. We look at record 3, that's correct, right? 30 is the oldest age, and next one is 2, 6, and so on. So that is the correct index order we're looking for. And once we have that index, we can now reorder our pool LA, Texas, and we use the square bracket using the index IDX to reorder our data. And voila, we can see the age has been correctly sorted ascendingly. Okay, so that's how we sort data. So let's continue with the next one is the view. So just be careful with this particular one. We're not really doing anything. We have already done several times using this command. is V is capitalized. And another very useful command is structure command, and it's all lower cases. So let's go ahead try that as TR, and let's go ahead bring up our pool just to see what's the structure in our pool. A lot of information here. So number of observations, number of variables, what columns. So again, the dollar sign indicate the columns, and they give you also what kind of data is character, and sample data. For example, age is number, and so on. Okay, so very useful command. The last set of things we'll cover is the actual statistics. So we're going to be using mean function, median, quantile, which is the same as quartile in Excel. Variance will be var, and standard deviation as SD. So let's go ahead. One of the very useful function when I get too many things in my console I want to clear out is that I can go to Edit and Clear Console to remove all the previous command and results. Can kind of start fresh. So all the commands we have done actually are still under history, so you can look at all the things we have done. Okay, so let's go ahead and do using the age column. So we're going to do mean, and it's going to be pool dollar sign age. Okay, make sure it's capitalized A, and it will give you the results right below that. So about 9 years old is our average age. And again, I'm going to use my up arrow to make it a little bit easier. So median, which is 8. And next is quantile. So quantile basically gives you from 0 to 100%. 0% quantile is your minimum value. So you can see minimum value. And the quantile at 100% is your max, 30. 50 percentile is your median, which you see here up there. And you also have the 25 and 75 quantiles. And let's go ahead and run variance, which is var, and standard deviation, SD. Okay, so that's how you can run some of basic statistics. So you can do the same thing for another variable, for example, the standard deviation of, let's say, the size. And that's how you can do it. Okay, so that completes this tutorial. Thank you for learning with me, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'm having so much fun with R. R and RStudio truly are one of my favorite tools to use for many different kinds of data manipulation. I like Excel for a lot of things, but in RStudio's case, you are working independently of the data, so there's really very few chances you can make errors by mistakenly hit a key to delete some certain cells. So I really like that perspective about R and RStudio. So I hope you liked it. If you have questions, please let me know. Bye now.